Okay, so I had quite a few people ask me about this IRC. I believe they call it a Gekkota tire. When I posted about it, and I rode it all weekend at the Enduro Cross, and I think there was more to say about it than I wanted to write in a Instagram novel. So I figured I would just put a short video up to talk about what I thought of the tire in general. Let me put this in neutral so we can spin it around. So, to start with, like I said in the post, this is probably one of the gummiest tires that I've used. You can see how much it squishes. The casing is very gummy, as well as the knobs. You can really twist on them, and seems like it should chunk out on rocks really bad. But I did 8 pro motos at the Coeur d'Alene Enduro Cross over the course of 2 days, with really slick conditions, mud that basically the dirt completely gave out in between the rocks, so there were big holes that my skill level didn't let me stay on top of the rocks, and so I got to fall in the holes several times and then spin my way out of those holes. And you can see that there are no knobs that tore off completely. And I can't see the whole tire, I guess, but take my word for it, none of the knobs tore off completely. Rich Larson is IRC's tire guy. He posted a video, actually sent me a message on Instagram after I posted about the tire, to some YouTube videos that they have talking about the longevity of the tire. And what he said was basically that the tire should wear off the sharp edges and not lose a lot of tread height, which I found to be true. This tread height is real similar to full brand new height, maybe lost a little bit right in the center, but as you can see, it's still got pretty good tread height. And I wore off the edges, the front edges on the rocks. I have a feeling that a lot of the wear, this edge wear, actually came from the dirt was very gritty at the Enduro Cross. There was like a lot of real kind of coarse sand in the mud, and if anybody's seen any videos of it, the mud was like bottomless, spinning in sandy mud. So I would imagine some wear came from that. So yeah, basically I was impressed with the tire overall. I think if you are comparing it to say something like a Shinko 505 or 525 cheater, the rubber compound on this is substantially more gummy. It's not even really in the same realm. Actually, I have a 525 right here. This is, you probably have experience. I guess if you're asking about it or wondering about it, you probably know what they're like. But you got basically that much flex with pretty good grip, and then substantially more on this tire. I have a fairly wore out nitro mousse in this tire. This is a 110 100, and I think the nitro mousse that I put in here when it was new was for that size of tire. I guess I don't probably pay close enough attention to that, but I think that's what it was. So it's a pretty wore out mousse. I don't know how many hours are on it or how many rides, because I'd just ride it until it feels like it's too soft. But I rode on this mousse all last fall and most of the spring, and it actually, it looks like it would be almost flat when you set the bike on the ground, but it actually holds up. It still is holding up fairly well. So the mousse is not too wore out, but it does give it some pretty good flex. So a couple things. Mounting the tire, it was pretty easy to mount because it's very flexible, and the mousse was pretty wore down. But it does seem like if you had a tighter mousse in it, you could easily cause some damage to the bead if you were taking too big of bites when you're mounting it up. And so you just want to be careful about that, I guess. What else? Yeah, so compared to a Shinko, I think it's not a very close comparison. You're kind of two different types of tire. I would say a Shinko is more of a hybrid rubber compound that's going to last longer overall, I would say. But this is in gnarly conditions. This type of rubber is it just has to get better traction. I would say it's more comparable to an Ibex. Ibex is softer, softer than a Shinko. This rubber compound is softer than an Ibex. Ibex is a little more luggy, I would say. So I would venture to believe that digging in the mud and duff type of stuff, like soft dirt, the Ibex might dig a little better. But I have ran an Ibex and ran this, and I think on the wet logs and wet rocks, this got better traction than I remember with the Ibex. So, and I didn't rip any knobs off. I didn't rip any knobs off on my Ibex either, but I know people complain about that. The Ibex does have a stiffer carcass with soft knobs, so I'm no tire expert by any means, but I would assume that would contribute to the knobs flexing on the carcass and then tearing. So this seems like when it catches traction, the whole carcass might flex a little more and allow the knob to not tear off of the carcass. So performance wise, I was very impressed. Anytime that my skill was not lacking and I wasn't just spinning uncontrollably on something that I shouldn't be spinning on, and was actually putting the tire on a log or a rock where it could do its job and get traction, it did so really well, even on the really slick rocks and logs that were out there when it was pouring down rain the whole time. In the mud, it seemed to dig fine, which kind of surprised me because I feel like the flex would make it maybe not dig down into the mud. Of course, I didn't run a normal tire back to back with it to know if I would be digging better in the mud with a normal tire. But I didn't feel like I was getting stuck in the mud worse than anyone else, or like it wasn't moving forward when I was in the mud. So I thought it dug fine. I thought it got great traction on the rocks and logs. It did come off the bead in one place. I don't know if it's on this side or if it's on the other side. I did beat it up. I put some air to it and beaded it up. Maybe, I don't know. Oh, right here. So it came off the bead in a section from about here to probably around here. So maybe a third of the tire. Which running gummy tires, I've had them off the bead set. I mean, it's not way, that's, you can kind of see that there. It's not out where that is. So, I don't know. I mean, it didn't come off the wheel. So, and I've actually never had one come off the wheel. I know people have had that happen, but on gummy tires, I've had them off the bead several times, and that probably has more to do with a combination of a soft mousse and a soft tire, maybe, pushing it off the bead a little bit. So, in that respect, I guess that is just something to mention. The closest I came to tearing off a knob was a few of these side knobs. If I can find one, maybe right here, if I can. There's some of that type of thing. It looks like I really, like right here. That's a good example. It kind of tore a little bit, maybe when it caught traction on a rock, or I don't know. But I can pull on this thing and it doesn't seem to be tearing anymore, and it didn't tear off. So, you know, I don't think that's too bad. So anyway, yeah, overall, I think I'm going to run this tire at the Orfino cross country. I might turn it around, and run it at the Orfino cross country, see how it looks after that. This will probably be my tire choice for Silver Mountain, and any type of hard enduro type stuff like that. Orfino's really slow, has lots of roots and logs and stuff to jump over, so I think that this will be a good tire for that, and it seems to dig in the mud. It seems like I think it's going to rain there, and it does get some slick mud out there, so I'm a little concerned about it maybe being a little rolly on some of the roads that they have from time to time. The last few years, there hasn't been much of that. There's been really, really tight trees and first gear twisting and turning type of stuff, and jumping over windfalls, and basically everything that was on the ground that didn't get cut off the ground, because they don't cut anything, and that's why it's awesome. But so I'm definitely going to use it there. Silver Mountain, there are some faster hill climbs with some loose rock and loose pine needles and dirt. So I'll probably have to think about it a little bit for Silver Mountain, but I have a good feeling I'm going to just run this at Silver Mountain, because depending on how it feels in Orfino. But judging from the Enduro Cross and what I felt there, I think that I'll probably run it at Silver Mountain. So whether it be a new one, or if this one's still good enough to run there, then I may do that. So yeah, I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else that I necessarily think is super mentionable. Obviously, I should say I have absolutely no affiliation with IRC, or Kenda, or any tire company. I just saw this tire and thought it looked cool. We got them into Matt got them into Revolution, and I felt it on the shelf and thought, man, that thing's not going to last one ride, because it felt like I could fold it up and put it in my backpack. So I thought, going to an Enduro Cross, might as well try it since I got it in, and was really impressed. And it's pretty unbelievable to me that this rubber compound made it through all of the abusive spinning on jagged rocks that I was doing with it when I was getting stuck in front of the grandstands continuously. Yeah, so anyway, if you have any questions for me about it, then let me know. I personally have ran an Ibex before with a pretty wore out mousse, and I've ran this tire with a pretty wore out mousse. That's the experience that I have with a gummy. My brother and dad have ran the 525 Shinko and the 505 Shinko, so I have a little bit of secondhand experience with what they said about those, and looking at it on their motorcycles after they've been riding them. So anyway, yeah, that's about it. I think that would have been too long to post on Instagram, but overall, that's my impression. I thought it did good. I didn't notice any glaring weaknesses, and there's not a bunch of knobs tore off of it. So that's that.